I'm doing some work. I've got the TV on in the background muted, and there is this television commercial on for this bizarre-looking golf putter, right? And the head of the putter looks like a Klingon warship or something.
They should make the lid so you could flip it open and like store food and stuff in there.
Oh, you were going to say pot. Don't pretend.
No, I was trying to segue to a pun about peanut butter. But it was really...
Thank God we stopped that in its tracks.
This is Epic Battle Cry Skirmish 235, a CD community!
Hello and welcome to Epic Battle Cry. This is the place where we cut through the crap to bring you the real deal in the gaming industry today.
Break Falcon Cry.
Yes.
I am your host, Tony Grice, and with me, as always, is Brent Adams and Daniel Kaiser. Brent, how you doing this week, buddy?
What's up? My backtrackers of bludgeoning! My reversers of rampage! How art thou?
Pretty sure I know what that's about.
Just as a caveat, we're recording this. There's no telling how many things Microsoft will have backtracked on between we record this
They
and
can
when
reverse
it's
the reversal.
Yeah,
Yes.
It could be a double flip, backwards reversal, double cross.
I maintain there's a good chance they are no longer in the gaming industry by the time this comes out.
Yes.
Like they'll just totally, you know what? We're just taking the Xbox One out of play.
They're going to re-release Windows XP.
I need them to stay in the gaming business long enough for Rockstar to put out Red Dead Redemption on PC. So until after that, they can go their merry way. But until
they don't
then,
even have to really have anything to do with that. It's not like they're getting out the OS business or anything like that, you know?
Well, that's true. But I mean, they got to support gaming on the OS is my point. But yes, I get what you're saying now.
Very good. DK, what about yourself, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, TG in 3D. Another year. I've grown older. I've grown wiser. It was recently my birthday. I don't know about the wiser part. I know that I've grown older.
I know about the wiser part.
Yeah. So, I got to celebrate a little bit of a birthday on Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all of the mothers listening to this podcast, of which there are probably less than two.
I don't know. It might not be that bad.
No,
I've heard the term mother precede a lot of things when I've been gaming online very often. So I mean, there might be a lot of mothers out there. Mothers, sorry.
But to answer your question, I'm doing well. I did not do a whole hell of a lot on my birthday. As I did sit next to my phone, I waited for one of you two gentlemen to call, and it didn't happen. But
we were on the phone with our mothers all day. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
And we agreed not to call you for your birthday.
Learning to deal.
I will say
on the real Ray.
I will say I texted DK the day after because the only way I ever remember a birthday anymore is Facebook, and it didn't fucking tell me this year.
You're right.
Oh God! So you're blaming Zuckerberg for?
Hey, all I'm saying, look,
name one thing you can't blame Zuckerberg for. Be honest.
You're trying to close down Facebook, so I mean. I completely think that is totally what they were trying to do, is deny me the knowledge of it was your birthday.
Probably.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Happy birthday.
Are we doing it now? All right, well, we have got plenty to go through this week, so let's go ahead and run through the gauntlet. All right, guys, we are here in the gauntlet, and the first big bit of news we've got is a few details around the upcoming Sunset Overdrive, along with we get our first look at some gameplay, I believe. Brent?
Yep.
How's it looking?
Well, it looks like Sunset Overdrive is how it's looking. Okay. We've got our first gameplay demo of the Xbox One exclusive from Insomniac Games. They're showing off a lot of the movement, a lot of the weapons, just the mentality that is Sunset Overdrive. And we've also got some details on the extra digital content that you will get if you get the special Day 1 edition of the game. It is going to include the following: the Nothing But the Hits gun, an overcharged version of the high-fidelity gun that launches limited edition, priceless, multicolored vinyls that do increase damage, about the only use for vinyls in my opinion. It's Me Fizzy outfit Fizzy is more popular than you because he has a great marketing budget, so why not dress up as him and get some of that fame? And then you'll also get the hardcore hammer. This actually sounds pretty good. You ponder buying the day one edition of Sunset Overdrive, the description reads. A spot check reveals that if you do, you can equip a mighty hammer made from a bat and a spiked dumbbell.
I got one of those.
Buy the day one edition of Sunset Overdrive subsequently.
So
that's
cool.
That last one sounds pretty good. The others I can kind of take or leave. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I can kind of take or leave Sunset Overdrive at this point. I watched the gameplay demo for this, and I don't know why. I mean, and traditionally I've been a fan of Insomniac stuff, but I was not grabbed by this game all that much. I don't know if it's just that I don't own an Xbox One, so I'm like, well, why bother getting excited about a game that I can't have?
I don't think it's that, because I'm with you. I'm actually on almost the exact same page with you on this, and I do have an Xbox. So
yeah.
What do you think, DK? I mean, what did you think of the footage first off, and some of the stuff they showed?
I went from being okay, it's a game, to being, hey, this looks pretty cool.
Wait, what?
This exists in reality.
Well, seriously, I mean, we didn't know too much about it, so
That's my first impression of clowns. It's like, okay, first off, we know they exist.
This is here. No, but I actually was impressed with the gameplay, and I was actually intrigued by, what they were pitching in the video, which is that this project is kind of a culmination of the studio's efforts over the last however many years, which has been quite a while. But when you think of the Ratchet and Clanks and all this stuff that they've done, Insomniac has always been about fun experiences with kind of crazy weapons and lots of personality and character, and this game is very bright and fun, doesn't take itself too seriously. They've tried some other things, Fuse didn't go so well for them, and so I think this is kind of them more looking at themselves as a studio, what makes them stand out, and putting that into the form of gameplay that I actually was pretty intrigued by. I went from not having this on my most anticipated list to putting it on there because I thought hey, this is an Xbox One exclusive that could kind of be worthy of some attention, and I want to see more from it. But I like what it has to offer, whether it's a weekend long romp or something more than that. I don't know, but it seemed like something that was fun. That's the only word I could say.
I agree with you that it's relatively strong as far as an exclusive goes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying that I think it looks bad. I don't know. I'm just saying that for whatever reason, I feel I just feel sort of nonplussed about it.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you there, Brent. I tell you, the thing is, that you talk about that it does look fun. I admit it. I think it does look fun. Matter of fact, that's one of the things they talk about in the video is it's fun over realism. Is like fun over realism, and what is it? What's the other word they use?
Style over
momentum
substance.
or something like that. No, it's like momentum or something like that. Basically keeping the game going really quickly. Yeah. But you can really see how they say that this is kind of like the culmination of everything they've worked on. The weapons definitely have that sort of feel from the Ratchet and Clank series. I think the look of the game actually reminds me of the early look of Fuse. I don't know if you remember, but when Fuse was originally announced, it had a little more of a kind of a little more comic style, a little more over the top style. My thing though is like looking at this game, it looks kind of as much as it looks like there's a lot of variation in the weapons, that's about the only thing it looks like there's a lot of variation in. I mean, we see this world with all of these creatures that look identical, and like it looks like the bosses have a little bit of style to them.
That and you don't see stuff that we haven't seen revealed
yet,
in their defense.
I see what you're
everything
saying.
we've seen of this game because really there was nothing in gameplay here that looked that different from the footage we saw a year ago almost in terms of the announcement video. I mean, now it is in game, granted, but I mean it's still the same stuff that we saw. I'm not saying that it's not going to have anything more, but I mean they say like you'll have this faction and a bunch more. It's like if the game was coming out later this year, it's a little interesting to me that we didn't see a little bit more of it. I actually thought that it was a little bland what they sort of showed. Yeah. The only other thing, the only thing I was going to say about it too is this to me, like I'm watching them play the game. I'm kind of like, hey, this looks fun. It looks kind of like over the top action, crazy weapons and stuff. Reminds me a little bit of a game that I kind of enjoyed quite a bit, a month or two ago, which was Loadout. And with the exception of Loadout is a free-to-play game, which, looked like, honestly, I could have sort of a similar amount of fun with as opposed to, I'm sure this is going to be like a full release. This is going to be like a $60 game, and it kind of makes me wonder. If it's going to stand out that much. I'm a little bit on that fence of it just kind of looking meh.
I see what you guys are saying. I think you're being a little hard on it, to be honest. But at the same time, I mean, for me, it looks a lot
I'm
like
not a little hard about anything, Daniel.
like Infamous style gameplay with a Dead Rising type of attitude to the gameplay. It's like Infamous meets Dead Rising in a comic book style, fun, don't make you laugh along the way type of thing. And I'm not saying it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I
spent like a good portion of video just talking
about
about the respawn animations. I mean,
but that looked cool though. I mean, it was kind of fun. It
has
thrown
nothing
out of
really
a
to do
van
with the
by the
game.
I mean, like
that's just
they're
an
trying to
aesthetic
show the
thing, though.
attitude.
I mean, that's just somebody looks at it and says, "Oh, I like the color green," and somebody else says, "I'd have preferred purple." I mean, that's just down to taste.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I'm saying they made a portion of it talking about the animation of you coming back into the world. I mean, that has really nothing, like, that's cool. And once you see that in the game when it first comes out, like, and you're playing the game, hey, that's cool. That's not something you show off in a trailer, kind of, trying to get people excited about the game, though. I don't know. I will say, this to me...
I've been thrown out of a van before, and it is exciting, so I will tell you that.
One other last little thing about the title, though. Do you think it's kind of interesting they're bringing back the Day 1 edition stuff? Like, we haven't seen these basically since the system launched, and we didn't get one for Titanfall, which, so to me, sort of, I just assumed they were getting rid of that whole moniker, but it looks like they're trying to bring it back, and if maybe for, like, trying to get those initial Day 1 sales up a little bit more, which I think is kind of interesting.
I think they'll do it as long as it's successful, and if it doesn't work, then they'll just reverse the policy.
All right, so next up we have an announcement from Nintendo around the upcoming format for their new Skylanders style platform they're bringing. DK, what's this going to be all about?
Okay, so Nintendo has announced NFP, which no is not a rap band starring Reggie Fils-Aimé. It's a Nintendo figurine platform, and this goes a lot towards what we've been saying in the past about them leveraging the power of their brand and kind of thinking outside the box a little bit, and by that I mean copying Skylanders and Disney Infinity. So basically what's happening, if you're familiar with what Skylanders and Disney Infinity are offering through the kind of near-field interactive type of characters that can jump into the game, they're basically doing that with Nintendo characters. We don't know the games, but we do know that it's going to be hitting the Wii U at some point this year, and next year more games for the Wii U and the 3DS. The 3DS is going to be need to use a special adapter or an accessory for infrared communication on the 3DS, but obviously
it's already built in the Wii U. Yeah.
It's already built into the Wii U, so you don't have to buy another thing there. You just need to buy the figurines and then put them to work within the game. We also know that you'll be able to customize your characters, kind of grow them, train them, do whatever, depending on the game and your usage of them. But in a nutshell, this is kind of them looking at the Skylanders, looking at the Disney Infinity and saying, hey, we've got a bunch of recognizable characters and big brands as well, so we're going to do this, and we're expecting to hear a lot more about it at E3 in terms of specific games. So what do you guys think of this game plan for them, and do you think it'll be successful?
We've talked about Nintendo recently, and we've said how they need to try something new. And on the one hand, I can say this is something new for them, but there is a part of me that's like, are you just trying to kind of chase Disney's puck here, which is not necessarily a bad idea for Nintendo. I mean,
did you just reference hockey?
I say that like I use that term all the time, but and no, I wasn't referencing hockey. Don't get excited. My point is that I would have referenced a good sport if I wanted to make a sport.
Hey,
no, I'm
it's
just
the
kidding.
best.
But my point is that I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea for Nintendo to maybe look at Disney and try to take a page out of their playbook, because their overall business is kind of built on similar principles, which is to say, maintaining interest in characters that have been around for a long time.
Yeah,
and kind of reinventing them, finding new ways to incorporate them and keep them relevant. So in that sense, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. The thing that I was going to say is that I feel as though it could come off as a little bit of Johnny-come-lately, just the fact that you do have Skylanders and Disney Infinity that are already pretty well established. I agree with the logic that having Nintendo, like official Nintendo merchandise like these figurines sitting on shelves in stores is definitely a good thing as far as raising Nintendo's brand awareness or maintaining Nintendo's brand awareness. I do agree that that's probably going to happen based off this. But as far as the implementation of the technology and stuff goes, I was just kind of, thinking about how, obviously it'll work great on the Wii U where you've got the NFC communication built into the gamepad, but you've got to buy this adapter thing for the 3DS, and I was thinking, well...
Yeah, but you got to get adapters for Disney.
For the other ones,
I understand. That's a fair point, but what I was going to say is that it seems to me that you could cut out a lot of this if you just had... a more robust online infrastructure where you could scan the figure on your Wii U and then it goes over to your 3DS. But then I thought, well, not everybody that's got a 3DS has a Wii U necessarily, so you got to have some way for them to take advantage of it as well.
And if you could scan it, I think that would take out the collectible nature of it. Friends would just scan their other buddies' collectibles.
Like the fact that you've got to have it with you or whatever.
Yeah.
So as far as just what we know about the strategy right now, which we don't really understand how this will actually interpret into gameplay or what the games that utilize this will what advantage they would have over just doing any other kind of video game with these characters. Just knowing what we know about it right now, I would say that I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that their reasoning is sound based on what they're saying. The question is basically just whether or not they can turn it into compelling gameplay with their existing hardware.
Yeah, I think if anybody can do it though too, I kind of think it is Nintendo. The great thing is they have all these, they have all these great IPs, all these great characters. If you just took just the Mario franchise, they could have 20 or 30 different figurines just from like the bosses and the little characters at different levels and stuff. The thing I will say I do find interesting, a lot of people were kind of saying is it similar to what I think you were saying, Brent, the whole Johnny Come Lately thing. When Disney Infinity came out, I think a lot of people were wondering, do we need another Skylanders type of game?
Right.
And yet Disney Infinity, I think if anything, seems to, at least to me, I don't really get into it that much, but it seems like as popular, if not maybe more so, than the Skylanders franchise has been. And I think if you take that to the step of having these Nintendo characters, I think this could be great. Now, again, it depends on what they do, and I think the one thing Nintendo is pretty good about is they are good in thinking about all of their properties together. So I think what we might see is something in the line of maybe in sort of the mind of a Mario Party style game where you have multiple mini games or something that just similar to a Disney Infinity style thing where you have different kinds of games and they could go with it. But it also might work as well. These characters might work as well in some of their more major games, more other games. The other thing I was going to say real quickly is I can't believe that it has taken them a year and a half to utilize this feature on the Wii U. The whole point of them, they're kind of it's to me it's a little odd that they're kind of excited in the fact that hey, it's already built into the Wii U, so you don't have to get anything else. Okay, if you are forward thinking enough to already build this into the Wii U, why are we only now seeing a product take advantage of it? Granted, there was a Pokemon game in Japan that never made it out here, but even that they only made 3 figures for. I think it was more just them testing the waters. Right. But it's just sort of weird to me that they thought ahead enough to say hey, this would be a feature we might want to use later, and then didn't really use anything with it.
Hindsight's always 20/20, but it is a killer opportunity.
Yeah, but this wasn't hindsight. They built in hardware to use it. Admittedly, I know what you're saying, but they made it. They want to keep their hardware as cheap as possible to make as much money off of it. That's one thing Nintendo is usually pretty good about, is making money off their hardware. Yeah. I'm sure NFC chips are not cheap to put in their hardware, so if they did it, they had to have... They had to know they were going to want to use them.
But what I'm saying is, though, they now know that this is something that consumers will respond to, as opposed to taking the initial risk. So now they're jumping in terms of that. Obviously, they had the opportunity, and I completely agree with you. And they could have helped distinguish the Wii as a platform by really playing this up. If Mario Kart 8 is coming out this week, and there's 5 extra carts that you could buy that were figures that you set down, and that would be a really fun type of way, the add-on type of thing. But not to beat a dead horse on another subject, but I couldn't help but just correlate this one particular thing that they said. I've talked a million times about them expanding their brand into mobile on this show, and when you take this sentence out of this press release that reads, This will provide exposure for Nintendo, play a great role in raising our brand awareness, and create more opportunities for consumers to play video games. That exact sentence could and should be applied to their mentality towards mobile gaming. And this is exactly the type of thing that I've been talking about. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to make a different type of Mario Kart, but if you want to be a complementary type of thing to that, then this is how they should be leveraging their brand and their characters to make more business decisions and money for their company. And this is exactly what I've been saying. So,
They did announce their first official app this like about a week ago as well, though. So like they do have a Mario Kart app that's coming out to mobile phones that is going to let you do like lap times and show videos and share the videos from Mario Kart 8. That's one of their big things. And I think that speaks a little bit to what you're wanting to see them do. I think, though, in all fairness, you could take any press release from any video game company and take parts of their press release and apply it to any part of their business. I mean, any one of the companies could use that same, that same thought process too. I think this is a good thing for them. I think this is definitely the right move. I don't think really any of us think that this is a bad thing for Nintendo to do, whether it's enough to turn them around or to change things drastically.
That's exactly right. Whether it will be successful and whether it will be enough to kind of get them on a good trajectory again. That's kind of the unknown factor, but it does seem like we're all pretty optimistic that this might be a step in the right direction.
I think so. All right, so next up we have the news. We have some video footage of the new DLC for Titanfall.
Oh yeah,
and it's called Expedition. Brent, you want to give some details around it?
Absolutely. Well, we've got a trailer that shows off the 3 new maps that are going to be coming to Titanfall: Swampland, Runoff, and War Games. From the description, we see that Swampland provides tall trees for Titan cover and unique opportunities for pilot parkour. Runoff is a multi-level, vertically speaking, a multi-level industrial facility where you've got really long sight lines that you have to account for. And War Games is set in the game simulation mode. The Expedition map pack is going to arrive on Xbox One and PC. Well, originally they said, or no, it's going to be this month. I was going to say, I think originally they said June, but it's been updated. So it is going to be in May that this is coming out, and it's coming to the 360 in June. It's priced at $9.99, and if you got the $25 season pass, this is included in that. So, what do you guys think? Titanfall. Everybody seems to still be having a pretty good time with it. Is it just the right time to release a map pack and get people re-energized for it?
I think so. I mean, I've kind of stopped playing Titanfall just because I've just been super busy with stuff. But when I saw this, I was like, I need to play Titanfall. That's exactly what I thought. And I do commend them for, really kind of going outside the box a little bit with especially the Swampland map. I looked at it, I was like, parkouring through trees. That seems...
It looks pretty badass.
It seems... I wasn't like... oh my God, that's the best thing ever. And I wasn't like, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. I was like, I should try that.
You were Sunset Overdrive on it, is what you're saying.
I was your version of Sunset Overdrive on it.
Gotcha.
But, for me, it's time for them to start rolling out some DLC already, maintain that hype. They're the best selling and premier game on the Xbox One. So keep that thing running as long as they can. And, $10, you're getting 3 maps. If you're paying $25 for the season pass, you're getting it included. So it's pretty fairly priced. What do you think, TG?
I think it's a little expensive. I mean, most map packs come with anywhere from 4 to 5 maps, and so. But anyway, I do think if you've got the
maps.
They're not, and actually, I'm in the same boat as you are, where you said you hadn't played it in a while. I got to be honest, Titanfall has been, and I've actually heard this from quite a few people. Titanfall is such a weird game. It is so much fun while you're playing it. It is a really well-designed game, but it does seem to sort of burn out quicker. It's almost like it sort of burns the candle at both ends, like where while you're playing it, that experience is awesome. Frankly, probably better, more fun an experience than most other shooters. But it doesn't seem to last as long. Almost everybody I've talked to really after the first couple of weeks, a week or two, their gameplay fell off
Was that
dramatically.
us burning ourselves out on it though? Because I played for about like 4 hours.
Well, I mean,
a day.
okay, that's a fair point. Maybe you did play a little more often than you did, but I would say even friends that I know that play that still to this day play, some of the old shooters, the old Call of Duties and things like that, go back and play them. So they're constantly playing something. I don't think they played Titanfall anything anymore in that period of time than they did other games, and they kind of got burnt out a little quicker as well. It's just one of those things where I think the game is a lot of fun, and I'll be honest with you, having not played the game in probably two or 3 weeks at this point, I haven't really played a match. I watched this trailer and I was fucking just jonesing for it again. Like it just, you watch the game just really
I was gonna call you
exudes.
and be like, dude, let's get on.
Dude, honestly, and it really
that answers that question.
Now here's the thing though. I didn't want
to call you while you were jonesing. So.
I don't know that it made me want to buy this DLC pack. It made me want to go back and play Titanfall.
That's true.
But I don't know that it makes me feel like I want to spend another $10 on it. Matter of fact, at this point, I'm kind of glad I didn't buy the season pass. I was going to buy the season pass right up front because I thought, surely to God, I'm going to be playing this thing for the next 2 months straight. I haven't been, and so now that this is coming out, I'm not sure it's worth $10, much less the $25 for the season pass. So. I don't know. It's kind of. I would be actually interested to hear everyone out there how they feel about Titanfall. Are you really still playing it every bit as much as you did? I don't think that it quite has the longevity of some of the other shooters out there. Even though while you're playing it, it is impossible to get past how much fun it is. I mean, it is just so much fun.
I don't know that I blame I see what you're saying. I think, for me personally, I think it's just a series of things, not necessarily bad game design or the game's fault or the maps.
I didn't say bad game design. I think it's just it burns brighter while you're playing it. So while you're playing it, in that moment, it's more intensely fun, but you kind of maybe burn out on it a little quicker.
I've had some girlfriends like that.
No, they were just burning.
Wait, what are you saying?
I light my girlfriends on fire?
Not on fire. I'm saying like they had things that required creams. All right, so last up in the gauntlet,
she's on fire.
We have got a
copyrighted, isn't it? Damn it.
We've got an interesting story here coming out from the team behind the Unreal franchise, and we got news that we're going to get a free-to-play Unreal tournament. DK,
don't call it free-to-play. They want
that's
you to
true. That's right.
specifically
It's just free.
Not call the new Unreal Tournament free-to-play because it is completely free. And this is what we know.
You
Epic
can't play it. It's just free.
It's free.
You get it and that's it. You install and you're done.
It's kind of.
But it's free.
Kind of true.
But it's free.
But it's free. No. But so here's the deal. Powered by Unreal Engine 4, which looks damn impressive. The new Unreal Tournament basically is coming to PC, Linux, Mac, and it is free as we've mentioned. And they're working with the community from day one to have this be a content driven by the community. So basically, they have put together a small team that are going to begin this project. And as they say, from the very first line of code and the very first art created and design decisions made, it's happening all in an open environment, collaboration between Epic, Unreal Tournament fans, Unreal Engine 4 developers. And basically, they're going to just, kind of broadcast and communicate all that's happening as they're developing things. But also, they're putting power into the creators' hands to be able to create content for the new Unreal Tournament that they could turn around and sell. Now, Epic is going to be able to get a percentage of that. They're recognizing up front that this is kind of a risky type of thing, and they understand that things are going to go wrong from time to time, but they're willing to do that and be flexible as long as the community is, and that everyone kind of just, looks at this modding thing from a different perspective. It's modding and monetization and being able to kind of get access to the engine, create great things, and then sell them, and they'll obviously be able to promote stuff. So it's a really interesting kind of business model that I think, is taking advantage of the enthusiasm around Unreal Tournament. What do you guys think about this move by Epic? I mean, they could have easily just released a game, sold it, and then had people create mods, the standard way of doing things. Maybe one of those mods would progress to be a full-fledged game that they might get behind. But instead, they're leaving the whole thing open, making the game free for everyone. What do you think of this strategy?
I have to say I like it. I like the idea that they're going to involve the community right from the get-go, right at the start, not just in terms of, hey, we're going to release some really great modding tools once we've release the game, and then you guys can come in and tack onto it what you please. But I like the idea that they're getting the community involved from day one, and are going to be soliciting and listening to suggestions and whatnot from the people who were excited for the game. I like the idea of the marketplace, where they're going to put value into the game by allowing people to create things for the game that they are then going to sell off. They're going to make a little bit of money from it. Epic's going to make some money from it, and that's how the community's that's how the game's going to pay for itself. That's how the community is going to expand itself, and that's in theory how the game's going to thrive. I like all of it. I really do. I think that it's a great idea. It's a good match, considering that it's a new Unreal tournament running on Unreal Engine 4, which has amazing potential, as you point out, Daniel. So I really don't have anything negative to say about it for once. I actually am really on board with this all around.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there in the same boat. I love Unreal Tournament. That's been since the very first UT years and years ago. Love the series. The only thing that sort of gives me a little bit of pause with the announcement here is the fact they kind of talk about how, one, they have nothing to show yet. Like, it's almost as if they have just had the idea and are now, are opening it up. And the fact that they only have a small group of people from the team kind of working on it, it really does sound to me like they're trying to put to be honest, they're trying to put as sort of little into this and then hope that the community takes it and runs with it and they get a piece of it. Now, I mean, I'm not necessarily against that. Matter of fact, I think that could be very cool. To me, I would say I would have felt a little bit better of it, sort of maybe they having shown like, here, we're going to launch with these 4 maps and these 2 character models or whatever, something, and but here's all the tools you get to go with. This does seem to me like a way to sell Unity licenses, like the license you have to get to get the software to get in there and start programming and sell stuff, and to get that cut of what people sell in the game. Yeah, I wish, because I will say I'm so excited to see this on Unreal Engine 4. I really, when I first read it, I thought this was going to be okay. This is like a backroom project. It's going to be running on the old technology or something like that, But seeing that's running on Unreal Tournament or Unreal Engine 4 is very, very exciting. It is. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from the announcement, like something usable from it. Like
in this Kickstarter generation that we live in, brands have more desire and ability to kind of test the waters first before they go too deep. And a lot of it, as I've said numerous times, especially pertaining to Kickstarter, has to deal with just the relevance of an IP or tapping into nostalgia or tapping into a reputable name. And for them at Epic, when they could throw Unreal Tournament on the table and task people, like you said, with being an active community that's going to get involved, they're taking a chance, but I would say that, the odds are in their favor.
But I don't think they're taking that big of a chance, I guess is what I'm saying. It sounds like they have very little resources thrown at it. So I don't think they are taking a big chance. I think this is something that if it succeeds, it could be huge for them. But if it didn't, I don't think anybody would ever, they're not putting so many resources behind this that I think that it's
unreal.
All right, guys, we are in the main topic this week, and of course, if you've been under a rock, you may not know this, but
or an Xbox Kinect.
Yes, you may not know
is
that
now synonymous with the word rock.
that Microsoft has it looks like they've kind of backpedaled again on some of their other policies they got. A lot of different news in the week. Let's go ahead and just run through it. Brent, you want to take us through what all they've talked about in the last few days?
Absolutely. Well, obviously E3 is about a month away at this point. And in a strange kind of irony, we've got just another reversal or another set of reversals coming into this year's E3, kind of closing out an entire year of backpedaling and policy changes, starting with last year's E3. Yeah. So this is what we know right now. The biggest thing right off the bat, as we were alluding to, Microsoft is going to unbundle the Kinect from the Xbox One, something that we've all been calling for them to do since day one, something that they said could not be done because the Kinect was such an integral part of the Xbox One experience, and they insist that it still will be an integral part of the Xbox One experience, just not so integral that they've got to charge you an extra $100 for having it in the box along with your console. So, new Xbox One systems minus Kinect will be available starting in June, and they will sell for $399 US, bringing them to price parity with the PlayStation 4, something that I think we are all really excited about. That's going to obviously be a huge boon for people that held off on getting an Xbox One. It's going to really piss people off who bought an Xbox One this week, but
oddly enough,
okay.
Price parity with the current Xbox One models because they keep marking the price down on them.
This is true. So anyhow, $400 Xbox One minus Kinect. The Kinect is going to be available by itself later this year if you want to pick that up. The other things that we found out about.
No, they really are?
A joke.
Oh, okay.
We've also found out about the first Xbox One titles that are going to be coming to the Games with Gold program for your XBL subscribers. That's going to be Max, The Curse of Brotherhood, and Halo Spartan Assault. Xbox 360 owners are also going to get 3 games next month instead of 2, which is Dark Souls, Charlie Murder, and Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. And then the last bit of news that is pretty interesting is Microsoft is going to stop making you pay twice to have access to Netflix, HBO Go, and many of their other entertainment apps. Those things have been behind the XBL Gold paywall for a long time, and Microsoft is cutting that policy. They're now going to be part of the Xbox Silver, the free program. So you're not going to have to pay for Xbox Gold in order to have access to those entertainment apps on your Xbox device. So
they finally listened to Ronald Reagan about tearing down that wall.
They tore down that motherfucking wall. So
is
anyway,
that when big news is that you no longer have to pay for something you were already overpaying for.
What do you know? But anyway, it's just like I said, it's the latest in a year of changes in policy, of changes in direction. What do you guys think? Is this coming into E3? Are you really excited to see how much Microsoft has been listening to their fan base, how much Microsoft has been listening to market demand?
Yes, and here's the deal. Okay, so it takes a lot to get this done. There's good and bad in this last year, of course. Obviously sales-wise, Sony is about 2 million ahead, I think, according to the last estimates over the Xbox One, and that's what Microsoft has said that they've shipped, not exactly what they've sold. So, they're definitely behind Sony in terms of units moved. They're aggressive at this point. They've listened to the community. The good and the bad, I think the good outweighs the bad. The bad is that they've lied to us, basically. They said that this Xbox One needs to have Kinect, that there's no way that it could be without Kinect. Initially, when they announced it was an always connected, always online digital distribution platform that needed Kinect. Their vision for what their next console for beyond the Xbox 360 is vastly off from what it's actually become, which is more of kind of what gamers just want. Standard, great video games, great experiences with a controller in their hand, most likely. And they're getting back to that. I do commend them for listening to their fans, for listening to the outcry, specifically, having the ability to be this reactionary before E3 and get the announcement made. Phil Spencer was brought on recently to be the head of Xbox, and I don't know if he just walked in and said, guys, this is what we're doing and making it happen, but there's been these big changes are occurring before E3, so I definitely attribute some of that to Phil and just a tactical shift in direction. 6 months, is a long time for us, but in the world of business, when you've plotted out this growth chart and game plan, it's not that long. So this is relatively fast turnaround for them, and I think that they've cleared the room, cleared the stage for them to be able to say, let's focus on the games, let's focus on E3. It would be amazing if they said, hey, this is they're going to take to the stage and say this is available now for $3.99. GameStop's got it pinned for June 10th as far as when this thing is going to be available without Kinect. But it'd be even better if they one-upped and said, go buy the Xbox One with Kinect right now for $3.99. We're basically giving you a free Kinect just to get that in there and get units moved between now and June. But anyway, I think, we have to applaud them for being reactive to fan feedback. This really was the only choice they had, to be honest with you, though. They were trying to shove Kinect down people's throats, and it wasn't happening, and they did not fulfill expectations of experiences that would make the Kinect a must-have type of device that they told us that it would be. And as I've talked about on the show, it's been cool, but it's not like I need to have it. So to be at that price level with Sony is going to do them a lot of good, and it's going to make the holiday season hella interesting for sure.
It's definitely moving in a much better direction for them, than it was. And I do think, there's a lot of early adopters I know, like myself, they're kind of frustrated because, you bought your system and then just a couple months later they were selling for $50 cheaper. Then they were selling for $50 cheaper and the biggest game for the system. Then they were selling for $100 cheaper and the biggest game. Like they kept doing things that frankly did kind of needle, I think, their already bought in install base, and there is a part of me that thinks that's a really bad thing to do. Maybe not long term, it doesn't hurt them as bad, but it really is kind of like I do think that there almost should be some sort of mea culpa to people that have purchased the system ahead of time to sort of make up a little bit for that, because we were sort of like, all right, fine, we'll take the commitment and buy your system, only to really kind of be screwed by them. I do think, though, that all the changes they're making are great. I think it has to be attributed to Phil Spencer, because let's be honest, they really were not. They were making small kind of movements towards this, and maybe they had kind of made that decision to go this way. But I think if they had made that decision to go this way, we wouldn't have seen the changeover in the people that that were moved around in this situation, if they were already committed to making these changes. I think maybe they were sort of doing it too slowly or weren't really committed to it, and so they were like, look, we need to get somebody in here that really understands what we need to do. I do like the fact that they announced all this stuff a month before E3. It gives us a lot of time to kind of get it in our headset, get in our minds, get ready. They've talked about their, the E3 press conference is going to be 90 minutes, just packed full of games. It's not, it doesn't sound like at least it's going to have any of the other kind of non-game related crap that most of the time we don't really care much about. So I do think this is good. There is one small bit of negative news in all this that we didn't really touch on, and that is the fact that they are changing the way Games for Gold works now, and they are going towards something more like the PlayStation Plus membership, where you have to keep your membership to keep your games. One of the things that I actually have to give them credit for, the great thing about the Games for Gold, was if you logged on and got those while they were free, if you let your account lapse, you could still play those games. Whereas, now going forward, you will not be able to. I'm assuming I don't think they really specified, but I'm assuming the ones that you got prior to this change, you'll still be able to keep, because that was the rules at that point. But going forward, you won't be able to. It's not that big a deal, but it is just kind of one of those things, like they're just, rather than, why couldn't they have just done it the other way? If they want to get a hand up on Sony, why not better Sony rather than just meet what they're doing?
Kind of just match
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, like the whole thing with the taking down the paywall. I mean, this was something that never made sense. Never. There was never a point in time this made sense that you had to have an Xbox Live account to be able to watch Netflix and Hulu Plus and things like that. Never made sense. Yeah. So the good news for them is that they are no longer doing something that was absolutely stupid. They're just matching what literally every other device on the face of this planet already does. And so things like that it's good that they did it. They should have always been doing it, so we can't give them too much credit for it, I don't think. But some of the other decisions, I think, definitely are things. One last little bit that I want to touch on. The only thing that still does suck about this whole dependence on Kinect is they basically still, though, there is a lot of processing power that is lost to the games for running things like Kinect. And unfortunately, just having a Kinect not come with the system or not hooked up does not free that up. I actually think that there is a serious, I think genuinely a serious question of whether this system can last a decent amount of time in this market. We're already seeing games right now, like you look at Child of Light and things like that, where they literally can't maintain 60 frames per second on a game that can run that and at higher resolutions on the competing product. Like, they're already struggling to give a significantly better experience than the old hardware, and we're only like 7 months into the life of the system. Some people have said, like, now that they've gotten rid of Kinect, or they're not bundling it in, that eventually they may get to the point where they'll free those resources up, and but we're only talking maybe 10-20% of a boost. I don't know if that's going to be enough to carry this system 6, 7, 8 years down the road. And to see that they're having those problems at this point already, they really need to start coming with some really, really amazing software to make people not just say, you know what, I think the PS4 is going to be a better long-term solution for me.
I think that just to kind of sum up my thoughts on it, I have to say that it's been interesting to see Microsoft basically take a change in leadership and a year to get to where everybody wanted them to be and where they should have known that they needed to be this time last year. They have had a really, really rough 6 months into this new console generation. Sony is out ahead of them by a good measure, and I think that all of these things are good steps to really get them back into the fight and to really make them competitive. And you can see the kinds, in similar fashion to the way that Sony last year, it seemed like every policy that Microsoft announced for the Xbox One, Sony went the other direction on the PlayStation 4 as if in answer to those things. And it's really interesting to see Microsoft kind of doing a similar sort of thing now in terms of addressing specific things like removing the entertainment apps from behind Xbox Live Gold. It's really interesting to see Microsoft directly competing with Sony on those things. I think that, as I said at the top, I think they're at parity right now, but I think that if Microsoft really wants to reduce that lead, and I understand that there are some people that fully expect Microsoft, just based on the fact that they have made these announcements and based on the fact that it is Xbox and they've got such a good lineage with gamers, I know a lot of people expect that this alone will be all they need to do, and that from here on out they will outpace Sony. I'm not convinced of that personally. I think that they're at parity with Sony right now, but I think that they've got to do more, like what Tony's suggesting, either with software services. They've got to do more if they want to come into the holiday season and take the #1 slot.
Just one last thing I'll say quickly on this. I mean, to me, this is the death nail, obviously, for the idea of a great Kinect game coming along. I mean, there are companies, look at Harmonix, look at other people who are working hard to make great experiences utilizing Kinect, but to me, it has always felt so forced. And when you're even dealing with a situation where you force the hardware on people so that you can guarantee the developers that there's a built-in install base, and you can say, this is the whole reasoning behind it, strengthening the cause behind Kinect by saying everyone who owns an Xbox One owns this. As I said last week on the show, that they don't have any unique IPs that take advantage of it. Their #1 game, Titanfall, doesn't even use Kinect. So for me, this is something to where I still hope for the future of interactive entertainment that somebody could come up with some cool ways to utilize this type of stuff, but they can't put the cart before the horse, and they have to realize that the experience is going to have to precede the ability for people to get excited and promote that as part of the platform, whereas you can't just force things to happen. And, for me personally, I've never really liked or enjoyed, Kinect all that much, but with Microsoft officially backing off of that now and unbundling it, there's just no way that it's going to be, it's going to take the ingenuity and innovation of a specific developer who has a vision for the type of experience they want to put something forth and convince us. And that is,
and in fairness,
their job.
They would have probably done it at this point. I mean, we're even though this is Kinect 2.0, we've had Kinect for some time now. And even though the new hardware is capable of doing things better in a sense, like we're still struggling to get experiences that make it worth it. So this is the right decision for them to make. And I think now the good thing is E3 is just going to be focused on games, and I mean that sounds like the stupidest comment to have to make. But it really, for the last few years, it's not. There's always been some sort of other thing floating in the background, and now it can really focus on what's important.
Like booth babes.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, we are coming up near the end of this week's Skirmish, but first we have our battle cries of the week, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a comment that kind of came out this past week. It was actually from the financial announcement from Nintendo last week, but it was in a Q&A thing that I don't think got picked up till more recently. But anyway, there was a question that was basically saying, we'd like to know when Nintendo will announce or launch its next product. Which one you gotta think that's an interesting question. The fact that their core home console right now is less than 2 years old, it's only a year and a half, and people genuinely are like, okay, so when are you going to launch the replacement? Because this just isn't working. The answer, though, from Iwata, the current, I say current because by the end of this week, at the time you're listening to this, it may not be. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, it is interesting to see his response to it, which is basically like, I, of course, believe that launching new hardware will not produce good results. Unless we first make sure that those who have already purchased our platforms are satisfied. We'll continue to work to make sure that they're satisfied with those platforms. But this is the thing. He says that he believes that just launching new hardware is not a good thing. And you know what? I'll give him to a certain degree that alone isn't enough. But his other thing is that he wants to focus on, we have to make sure that people that have our current hardware are satisfied. Now, the problem with that is, I think in theory that's great. You don't want to just say like, hey, I'm sorry, we screwed that one up. Anybody that bought it, you're out of luck. Where are we going on to the other thing?
Right.
The problem is the Wii U is kind of a thing where I don't see them turning the Wii U around. And so rather than focus resources on trying to make that small audience that has decided to purchase it happy and maybe expound just a little bit, they really do need to probably look at, going ahead with something, something as a more major step up for them in terms of a platform. He does say that they are looking at that and that they're always working on hardware, and I do believe them. I think that they are already working on whatever the next generation replacement for it is, but it is just sort of interesting to know that I feel like even in this, they're slightly out of touch, where they're just like, well, hey, we can't bring it out now, even if we had the greatest thing to begin with. We can't bring it out because we got to make sure people that have this system are happy.
Yeah,
I just feel like that's sort of throwing money down a hole and time down a hole, actually. But anyway, that is my battle cry this week. Brent, what is your battle cry?
By the time you're listening to this show, you will have already seen this image. You will already know this information. But as we're recording this, it's still pretty fresh in everybody's minds, and that is the reveal of Ben Affleck in costume as Batman, standing next to the Batmobile from the next DC Universe title, at this point still known as Batman versus Superman, or Superman versus Batman, or something along those lines.
Not yet Justice League.
Not yet Justice League. That's coming after. But anyway, the point is that we got our first look at Hoofleck in the Bat costume. I can make no comment whatsoever on Affleck as an actor and whether or not he's going to do a good job with Batman, because frankly I just don't know. There have been a couple of things that Affleck's done in his career that have legitimately impressed me, and a whole bunch of stuff that makes me very, very scared for him to play Batman. And I'm a huge Batman fan, as most people know, so I have a lot riding on this emotionally. But the one thing that I will say about this image that is really, really exciting, and Tony will know where I'm coming from on this because we've talked about it. What do I always say? I always say, the only thing about like the Batman stuff that like really, like, I wish they'd just go to like the shorter ears. Like I always like the outfit from Dark Knight Returns. I love the really short bat ears on the cowl.
I agree.
You look at this, and not only is it the really short bat ears, this is the Dark Knight Returns outfit. It's got the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns bat symbol on the chest. It's got the short ears on the cowl. Even the utility belt is the Dark Knight Returns utility belt. Now I don't.
He's got this weird veiny thing going on though in the costume.
It's got a super really well-defined texture on the material. It looks like it's a Batman outfit made. It looks like it's a bat suit made out of burlap, essentially.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is that I make no claims that just because the costume is so directly inspired by Dark Knight Returns, I make no claims that that's the direction the film is going in. However, that would be a really good idea. But anyway, for one, I was really, really curious what my reaction was going to be. I was really curious what the costume was going to be, and I have to say that it was, for me, a really positive experience. I am all about some Batman Return or some Dark Knight Returns Batsuit action going on.
What about the Batmobile?
For whatever it's worth, I think that they got this call right. The Batmobile, we don't really get a great look at it. It looks kind of interesting, but I'm not.
They actually show. I don't know if you've seen. There is a shot from behind where you see more of the
like
vehicle.
Under the tarp. Yeah.
It's sort of like a mix of the Tumbler and like the old school kind of like, or I guess you think of like the
Keaton.
Tim Burton, Keaton Batmobile, which it looks okay.
No, that was a cool car.
It's better than I was afraid it was going to be. like his first look. But somebody asked me on Facebook this, same thing, like how do you feel about it? And I'm still, to me, we're so far away. Like until I see a trailer, until I just get an inkling of how it's going to be portrayed, how it's going to be the film. Yeah, it's way too early for me. But this is definitely, but I'm definitely with you on this was more positive than I was afraid it was going to be. Like I was afraid someone's going to come out and be like, God, just like the reaction I had when they announced that Affleck was going to be Batman. All right, so DK, what about yourself? Do you have a battle cry this week?
I do. It goes out to the CD Projekt Red community because they're
I wouldn't call them seedy. I mean, they work in well-lit places.
Come on.
No, they're just cool. As you guys know, we've been doing this most anticipated games of E3 thing. It's on GameTrailers now. GameTrailers.com/E3. In the 30 days of E3 thing, you're going to see a lot of the most anticipated games of E3. And this past week, I put out something about The Witcher on Twitter because they had cracked the top 10. Well, they retweeted it and tasked their community with going, the game skyrocketed all the way to number 1, as did Cyberpunk 2077 getting into number 5. And I just love to see communities get behind products they believe in and studios that they believe in. I've always admired CD Projekt Red for the way they deal with their community. When there's been issues in the past, they bend over backwards to kind of take care of them, and the community in return looks out for them. So more so than anything, more than rankings and everything else, I just kind of love that relationship that they've fostered in that environment that they've even carried over to GOG and stuff like that as well. So a really cool company, and they definitely deserve to have their games inside the most anticipated games of E3 because both The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and Cyberpunk 2077 are looking pretty badass. So props to them. That's my battle cry this week.
That is awesome. It is awesome to see how many companies are embracing Fave's List and really getting the communities and embracing it and taking to it. It's so awesome to see.
Cool, man.
Very, very cool. Brent, I think you have our battle cry this week.
The member battle cry is indeed mine to read, and it comes from Def Jeff 256.
Def Jeff, that's a cool. I work with one of those. I'm just joking.
And Jeff says this: interesting to hear the Destiny budget talk on the show. It's usually impossible to know how much money is really spent on a game release advertising in total over a franchise's lifetime for various reasons, but I would caution taking Activision at their word. I mean, how much of that money is actually Activision's? Are they counting the cross-promotional money as well? Remember Mountain Dew / Doritos commercials for Modern Warfare, the Jeep commercials, platform-specific ads for platform-specific content? That is a lot of money that was spent ostensibly on a single game, but it's money that didn't necessarily come out of Activision's coffers. It'll be interesting if they will go that route with Destiny, where every piece of media content you see for an entire quarter has a Destiny tie-in of some kind. It will be interesting to see if they go that route. I think that the mainstream popularity of Call of Duty certainly lends itself to all of those mainstream product tie-ins. It'll be interesting to see if Destiny can if Destiny would make sense in the same context. I mean, I think that they anticipate it, or certainly want it to be, a big mainstream success, but do you guys see Destiny as being as accessible on those levels as something like Modern Warfare?
It's a good question. I think, like we talked about last week, Activision's really going to push this thing, make it hard. I think, it's Call of Duty, right? It shifts. So you've got different themes, you've got different things that it kind of, it started off as a World War II thing, and then it's futuristic, and then it's, all these different settings. Whereas Destiny, it's sci-fi. If you don't like sci-fi stuff, it's polarizing in that regard. But
right.
So it is a little bit limiting because of that. The Call of Duty franchise has the opportunity to loop around and tell different tales. And we always make the comparisons to the Maddens and the NBAs and stuff in terms of a yearly iteration, but it does do that, whereas Destiny is more of a singular game, and I think it is going to be more limiting because of that. And it is an interesting point, though, made in the battle cry about the $500 million. It goes to a lot of different things, but it all comes down to how well the game plays and how much hype they get behind it and how many people are enjoying it. I do wonder about the Titanfall effect, if it's going to, burn brightly like TG says and then kind of go away or whatnot. But they're investing, a 10-year plan in this thing. So hopefully for them, it'll pay off.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm a little afraid. To me, it'll just be interesting to see how Destiny as a whole is received when it finally comes out. And I think that first year will really be a sign whether it's they're plan is going to work or whether they have to change it up, more drastically than maybe we expect them to.
Right.
All right, Def Jeff, great. Make sure you keep dropping rhymes on drums for us there, buddy. All right, that is going to do it for this week's Skirmish. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this week, and please join us again next week when we will once again be cleaving the fat from the gaming stories of the day. For Daniel Kaiser and Brent Adams, I'm your host, Tony Grice, and remember, cry havoc. Microsoft already backtracked. They're no longer in the gaming industry.
Oh!
Yeah.
We knew this was coming at some point.
Yeah, they actually eliminated the Xbox One from the Xbox One bundle.
What do you know?
They should just sell the Kinect without the Xbox One.
Yeah, they sold the Kinect to Facebook, strangely enough.
They actually should just sell the Xbox One controller.
Yes.
That would be the most profitable thing for them. They just sell it as an add-on for the PS4.
Controller. I mean,
it is a good controller.
Yeah. Now that they fixed the firmware on piece of shit.